What's up, everybody? How are you doing? Hope you're having a beautiful start to the week. Second video on this channel. I just want to first and foremost say thank you so much for all the love and support shown on my first video. Completely crushed my expectations. And look, you guys are only fueling the fire and my motivation and commitment. We're going to improve on this channel. I'm going to continue to dedicate quality content and elevate the Dynasty Fantasy Football videos that I bring you all, and really just having fun along the way and building the community. So thank you guys so much. Today, look, I'm going my first iteration of a series that is going to be called the Narrative Notebook, if you will. And what that is, for lack of a better term, we're just going to be keeping an eye on the pervading thoughts, feelings from a scouting industry, dynasty industry, just what is the perception, if you will, of specific positional draft classes. And today we're going to start with the receiver class. Very, very unique class it is. Definitely different than what we've been seeing for several years now. And the beauty of this is we can start early December. Playoffs are starting up. Players are actually announcing they're declaring for the draft, which is beautiful to just really cement, put away any underlying worries that we have that they might stay in college, as irrational as that is with how talented these guys are and the contracts that are waiting for them at the next level. Guys, let's get into this. First ever Narrative Notebook 2024 wide receiver class. What is the narrative of this 2024 wide receiver class as of December 4th, recording this? Well, let me tell you, we're talking about historic talent and depth overall at the position. A far cry from what we've really seen for a couple years now. Look, you have your Marvin Harrison Jr., the term generational, right? It's so overused and really kind of discounted, and the meaning of it's kind of lost some weight, you could say. But people and people and people, so many are saying Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best receiver prospect since, I mean, you guys let me know in the comments who that answer really is. Better than Jamar Chase, better than Julio Jones. Got to go back to Megatron, I think, Calvin Johnson from the Georgia Tech days. It is such an overused term, generational, but he is, in effect, a unicorn and has captivated football watchers, dynasty players like you and I for a couple years running now. Burst onto the scene in the Rose Bowl of his true freshman year when the likes of Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave were sitting out to prepare for the draft. And it's funny because you think about interviews. I know it was a sit down of both Olave and Wilson with Kirk Herbstreit, and they were asked, oh, who's the best? And they were like, Jackson Smith and Jigba was the answer of within that room at that time. But then you follow both those guys once they got to the NFL. Quickly, it was like, okay, Marvin Harrison Jr. on Twitter, on the X Spirit, they were saying Marvin Harrison Jr. is just ridiculous. Ridiculous. And it's hard for me to put into words, really, the talent that Marvin Harrison Jr. is. Really safe to say at this point, he's going to be the number one overall prospect in terms of the NFL draft rankings, just within his position and within a very premium position of receiver. He is just as close to perfection as you could reasonably hope for and ask. And look, guys like Roman Wilson, who would be pretty safe top 10 in normal classes, top 10 at the position, he barely, I think, kind of breaks into the early teens in terms of the early stages of rankings. But he's been a very productive player at a very good program. You talk about rivals, Ohio State, Michigan. Funny that this graphic works out this way, but yeah, we're talking truly historic talent, top end wise, and depth all the way through into the double digits at the position, which just bodes so well for our dynasty rosters. And really, this narrative also pertains to a huge, with the amount of players, the amount of talented players in this class, there's such a diversity in the profile of these players. Last year, we saw the Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, kind of very smaller, quick, more like twitched up athletes, which they can absolutely win, and they have won at the NFL level. But pretty much any way you could reasonably win, quote unquote, have success, there's all types of flavors, right, in this class, and that is just fun. As a fan, as a dynasty player, you can really pick and choose what it is you're out for, what you're looking for. And for example, we're talking about the likes of a 6'7" Johnny Wilson, who has had success with Florida State. Guys, let me know if you think Florida State should have been in the playoff. Speaking of a hot topic, hot button issue, man, I feel bad for Noles fans. Georgia fans as well, talking about a team that was left out. The two teams that are, I guess I didn't even think of it this way with this graphic, the two teams on the outside looking in for the college football playoff, talking about kind of the juxtaposition of profiles and physically and stature, almost your Lad McConkeys, like your in line with your Zay Flowers of the world of last year's class. There's such a deviation in, physical profile, production profile, 3-year guys, 5-year guys, seniors, transfers, red shirts, guys that were just 5 stars bound for greatness, right? There is so much diversity in that sense, which kind of creates a bit of a conundrum for people trying to make sense of, from models and data and all that. But we can just sit back and have fun and enjoy this ride and this receiver class. And the more we get closer and closer to the draft, a lot of questions will be answered. But right now, it's just so much fun and a bit of intrigue and mystery, as is trying to pinpoint comparisons for these players. It's so hard. Obviously, as humans, we look for comparison. We try to find almost like a like for like of whatever it is we're talking about, the subject of the conversation. With these receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr., the likes of in terms of there's one player I've seen people try to attach themselves to, Jordan Reed, I know at ESPN has, AJ Green. And AJ Green, I feel like is a little bit underrated his career. He was a monster. He is a physical freak himself, really sure-handed, just alpha receiver one profile. Funny how they both were, I guess, number 18. Marvin Harrison Jr., AJ Green. Does he end up as a Bengal? That's not really going to happen. The Bengals, they're way too far outside, especially after a big Monday Night Football win against the Jags. Surprise. Jake Browning coming for Joe Burrow's job. Let me know how you rank your quarterbacks in the dynasty landscape right now. But jokes aside, I mean, we're talking AJ Green for Marvin Harrison. We're talking, I saw this on the Fox broadcast for the Pac-12 games, a Devontae Adams for Rome Odunze. And talking about another Rome Odunze comp, I've seen, shout out to Ray GQ, a souped up, kind of like a jumbo Chris Olave. And look, Chris Olave, incredible talent. We've already kind of mentioned him by association in this video earlier. But it's funny when you think of a jumbo Chris Olave, a technician, a guy that's sure-handed, can win at all levels of the field, you kind of think of a Devontae Adams in terms of a jumbo souped-up Chris Olave. So just another way to kind of describe beautiful, beautiful play and incredibly high-level receiver prospects, which we have aplenty in this class. And to kind of put into words and capture what we're talking about here with this receiver class, 6 to 8 guys are tracking to go in the first round. There's only 32 picks. So we're talking in the range of 20 to 25%, 1 in 5, 1 in 4 picks in the first round of the NFL draft could be one position, the receiver position. And 6 to 8, so you extrapolate that pace for day 2 capital. Guys, there's going to be a whole round, if you will, 12, I think at least a dozen, that are going to get that day 2 or better, really second round, top 64 or better type draft capital. Yeah, I think that tongue twisted myself here, but seriously, there are going to be so many options. A lot to be determined, obviously, where they get picked, where they land exactly with what team, but it's just so much to be excited about and look forward to. The narrative, the perception about this class could not be any higher in my view. It really could not be. It's unbelievable. It's unheard of. It's never before seen. It's hence historic. Just really haven't seen this. You think about, speaking of Davante Adams, we talked about him earlier, a 2014 draft class where, look, it wasn't really nearly like 6, 7, 8 guys in the first round, but you had a Mike Evans, Davante Adams, OBJ type, Sammy Watkins, who had a good career as well. Just some injuries derailed his duration of his career, but we're talking incredible talents, and there's going to be a multitude of guys that really, I think, make an early impact. And it's not me just saying this. I'm taking the pulse of the NFL scouting community, the Dynasty community, and look, where does this narrative leave us? Course of action. What can we do now and in the future as we get into the pre-draft season? Well, we're already into the pre-draft season, truly. And if I had to say prioritize one thing or do one thing, well, do not sell top 20 rookie picks. Potentially a dozen receivers get picked round 2 or better. That means we're talking at least half of the first 20 picks are going to be tracking as wide receivers. And like a theme already discussed, you really can't have too many. They're just, throwing darts at a dartboard. All these guys have so much potential. It's incredible. And naturally, receiver's not going to be the only position that gets picked in your rookie drafts early. Quarterback, it's looking like a very good year for quarterbacks. So you're going to have naturally, I would say, about 4, 5-ish quarterbacks that go in the top 20 of your rookie draft as of today, how it's looking. So then that automatically then leaves for 15 other picks. Well, there's going to be a couple tight ends, naturally a couple receivers, and really that then fills up 10, allocate 10, 12. There's going to be so many receivers to compose the remainder. They have to compose the remainder of those top 20 picks in your rookie drafts. So do not sell your top 20 picks right now. If you were to transact them, so to speak, make it draft picks. Make it like you're moving up, maybe not necessarily moving down just yet, because we still are going to have to see where the tiers maybe shake out exactly. But hold on to your top 20 picks for now, because they truly only tend to go up. Picks only go up. They're the gold standard, the gold bars, if you will. And look, they hold this weight before they're even turned into a player. And once we get through the playoff season and people have to devote their attention to something beyond their management of their roster and their team currently in this end of 2023 season, shift in focus is going to immediately go toward rookie picks. And especially when people start to get more and more aware after you all, hence keep sticking on the Dynasty Psych channel. I'm going to keep you guys ahead of the curve. These picks are just going to skyrocket, and you're going to be able to get so much in return if you want, if you need, depending on the obviously individual complexion of your roster, what positions you might need, where you have depth, where you don't. But the beauty is, don't take away your flexibility. And what the only way you would take away your flexibility and be at a detriment is if you did move off these picks now. Do not do it. So where that leaves you is try to trade up, really, I think, into the mid first round, 105, 106, 107, 108 range, because in the mid first, you might very well, given the quarterbacks that are going to go early, it looks like in this draft, 3 quarterbacks, potentially top 7, 8, 9, 10, top 10 overall picks, 3 quarterbacks. You've got a Brock Bowers as well. That 105 range through 108 range, you could very well get a top 10 Malik Neighbors to the Chargers, for example. A top 10, potentially Rome Odunze to the Giants or the Saints. A top 15 Keon Coleman. Another receiver like a Emeka Ibuka, Brian Thomas, Xavier Legette, somebody that might go to a Josh Allen led or Joe Burrow led team. That mid first, there are going to be incredible options with that are going to be receivers. I think it's safe to say who's going to compose those mid round first round mid first picks, excuse me. There's going to be incredible receiver options within that range. And like I've sort of alluded to, tiers is going to be a big focus, obviously, of our attention. Tiers are going to be a lot clearer as we get further into the process, of course. And to be, I think, really in a place where you ensure that you get one of these really top end guys. And look, maybe not name Marvin Harrison, because I think Maserati Marv is going to go top 3 in your rookie draft. So if you can get into that 5, 6, 7, 8 round, 5 through 8 range, excuse me, you are going to have incredible options, incredible options. And really, regardless of maybe what team they get drafted to, we're talking very talented, I think, team landing spot independent players, like we saw Garrett Wilson has been with the Jets. Free my man, but he maybe would be in the 3, 4, 5 range if he was in this class. It's so hard to compare previous years, but there are incredible players. I'm sound like a broken record, but that's the theme of this video, guys. And a theme as we get through the end of 2023 into 2024, anticipate combine chaos. What do I mean by combine chaos? We've alluded to it already with the diverse profiles that exist. Guys like Xavier Legette, Brian Thomas, Keon Coleman, athletic freaks who could very well almost have an Anthony Richardson type combine where they just are in the 99th percentile athletically speaking. The measurables that they maybe put up, depending on what they participate in, what they choose to participate in at the combine, you could have very well a situation, exclude the guys I just talked about, that trio of, bona fide 6'3", 225 studs that could be, 40-inch verts, sub 4.4s. If we think about how the combine is laid out in the order, alphabetically, right? Kind of broken up into chunks. Imagine a Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, kind of like a back-to-back alphabetically. They go 4.4, low 4.4s. I potentially could see very well even breaking sub 4.4, mid to high 4.3s. I think because these guys are so unbelievably athletic and freaks, they can just train for a couple months over at Exos, all these trainers. They can really just lock in like no other and prepare for a combine setting and a testing setting like no other. And if we have a Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze back-to-back, just viral clips putting on a show. And this is, guys, this is outside of the drills, even, the gauntlet where everybody loves the Steve Smith, Michael Irvin commentary about the gauntlet back and forth, boom, boom. Like they're going to run routes beautifully in gym shorts and underwear. They're going to catch the ball beautifully. But the athletic testing, there could be just record setting performances athletically at the combine I could see a handful of candidates. Let me know if you guys want to see a video. I think as we get closer to the combine, that'll certainly be a potential video I make. But yeah, I could talk about kind of hot points timeline within our off season leading up to rookie draft season. Really, you need to anticipate, obviously, NFL combine storylines, and with this receiver class, potential chaos, shakeups. You have to anticipate it. You have to embrace it, not necessarily overreact, because ultimately, look, so much is to be determined. We'll see how the actual draft shakes up. We'll see if we maybe lose one or two of these guys to staying in college. I don't think that's going to be the case, but there's still so much that could happen. The beauty is we're just getting ahead of the curve early December here. But look, ultimately, you, me, we all have to, starting now especially, just talking about narrative, perception, what matters most is your own individual leagues and obviously who is playing in them. And you obviously know best who you're playing with behaviorally, strategically. Keep as best or reasonable track of your buddies, or if you don't know them, strangers, just their thoughts and general feelings and likability, how they're, as much as maybe they want to potentially put out to you. Look, I'm often the guy that doesn't really get too much of a response, right? But if you just have to be that guy of just kind of maybe being a little bit of a pest, just kind of poking around, just initiating conversation about, hey, what are you guys thinking about this receiver class? Just so that you're better equipped, you have more information that you can use to your benefit, and just being mindful. That's all we can do, is monitor the pulse of our leagues and, of course, ultimately do our own research. And what better way to do than the Dynasty Psych channel? Guys, I hope this video made some sense, gave you some insights on perspective. I got a mock draft coming up very soon for you all. I know you loved it so much last week. I'll see you soon. Have a great night.